when people get out of their exercise habit, get out of their exercise routine, and if that routine has included some kind of resistance training and they stop doing that, now all of a sudden that's when they really start to notice, oh, those joints, aches and pains that either were not that noticeable before or were just not there at all. Now I'm starting to notice them. Oh, those soft tissue things that I haven't noticed for a while? Yeah, I'm starting to notice them because, like you're saying, Julie, the function of the muscular system starts to diminish if you are underutilizing and underusing your muscles by not doing specific resistance training. Welcome to the Exercise is Health podcast, where we're talking about exercise, health, and the interconnectedness of the two. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we will be coming to you every single week from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise is Health podcast. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we're coming to you from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg in Schaumburg, Illinois. Now, at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, we believe your health is your most valuable asset. Your health is one of the biggest influencers of the quality and quantity of time that you have. And while there are many aspects of health, our expertise is exercise. Exercise has been proven time and again to not only improve your health, but also increase your longevity and improve your quality of life. And today, we want to talk about an exercise-related topic that is super relevant to what's going on right now, and that is the habit of exercise. See, so many of us, if we were regular exercisers before, have probably been thrown off our game in some way, shape, or form. Your gym is closed, the group fitness class you would do is closed, you can't go to see your trainer, or even if you weren't going to the gym and you were, running on trails or biking or things like that, a lot of public places have been closed for a really long time. But you still have to be able to exercise. And we want to talk about the importance of the habit of exercise and finding what works for you.
Now, I brought this topic up to Charlie today that I wanted to talk about it because the habit of exercise is literally the thing that makes you exercise, right? Like, is it habitual for you? Is it something that you do on repeat? I think so often we overthink, what it is to exercise, and really it's all about getting yourself to do it. So here's the thing. The bottom line is you have to do what works for you. I think a lot of times when we think about something that is habitual or especially exercise, we think about like the right or wrong way to do it or what way works for him or her or my friend. But in the end, it has to work for you, time-wise, schedule-wise, motivation-wise, which I think is a huge one. And so I think right now, if you are a regular exercise, just as Charlie said, you've kind of been thrown off your habit. If you're a regular exerciser, that means that you had a habit of exercising. And probably that habit kind of looked like something on repeat. So if you're a gym person, it probably meant you went to the gym, however many times a week. And if you're a runner, it probably meant you went outside and ran a couple times per week. Or if you went to cycle class, that meant you went to cycle class a couple times a week. But now some of those things are unavailable for you. So there's like a complete disruption in your habit, right? Like you can't go to the gym now. That was the habit. That's the thing that worked for you. Or you can't go to cycle class. That was the habit. That's what was working for you. And there are a lot of negative side effects to losing this habit because you're like, dang, I was on my game. Or maybe you're new to exercise and you're like, wow, I'm trying to build the habit. It's rough to build the habit. Let's talk about some things that we can do to get you in a habit. But first, I want to talk about some of these things that are not often thought of as a result of getting out of the habit that we've seen a handful of our clients struggling with. And the first of it is body function. So the first things first is exercise is really good at one thing and moderate at a whole bunch of other things. Number one, it's really good at getting your muscles to function properly when done appropriately. So a lot of times we think of exercise as a way to boost my mood or to rev my metabolism or to lose weight or to build muscle. But exercise is actually the best thing at improving muscle function, muscle's ability to contract. So when you lose your habit of exercise, you start losing your muscle function. You start losing the ability for your muscles to operate at optimal. And this is so important because exercise is unfortunately one of those things where it's like you don't get to do like one and done. Like, here's an example. Like I married Charlie 3 years ago, and now that I'm married, I never have to marry him again because I just stay married, But exercise isn't like that. You don't go to the gym one time and then you're gymmed for life. You have to keep doing it to get the benefits, right? So that's the unfortunate part, is when you lose the habit. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So we've had a handful of our clients reach out to us and say like, hey, I know I'm not an MAT client, but my fasciitis has flared up. What could I do? And the first answer that I give is like, hey, I'm going to help you with some exercises that are specific to fasciitis. But the first things first is you got to keep up with your resistance training. Are you still doing your resistance training? And always the answer is no. So what's interesting is that weird symptoms, not that we really lift weights in her feet, but weird symptoms start to arise when we start not exercising consistently and not keeping up our muscle function.
Well, and that's such a great point, Julie, because a lot of times, we think, okay, if I can't get to the gym, then I can't lift weights, but I'm still going to exercise, which means I'm going to go do cardio. And we just focus on doing the cardio aspect, to kind of reference some of the other earlier content that we've put out. If we're talking about kind of two types of exercise, where we have exercise that, builds or rebuilds your body, and then exercise that uses your body. Cardio is one of those that more times than not is a form of exercise that just simply uses your body. You're there to get something done, over an extended period of time. Yes, there is some building of, your cardiovascular system and everything like that. But for the most part, you're not thinking about the function of your muscles while you're running on the treadmill. You're not thinking about the function of your muscles or your joints, while you're biking or while you're on the elliptical. You're just doing the thing. You're distracting yourself with, whatever show you're watching, whatever podcast you're listening to. Maybe it's this one.
Hey, don't call us out.
But that being said, at the end of the day, if you are exercising and you're just simply using your body, eventually your body's going to need to get built back up, because it's going to say, hey, you know what? You've been using. You need to build back into me. Okay. And that's one of the places that we see resistance training really, really, really taking precedence over cardiovascular based exercise, is from a building and rebuilding perspective of the body. And so, Julie, to your point, yeah, when people get out of their exercise habit, get out of their exercise routine, and if that routine has included some kind of resistance training and they stop doing that, now all of a sudden that's when they really start to notice, oh, those joints, aches and pains that either were not that noticeable before or were just not there at all. Now I'm starting to notice them. Oh, those soft tissue things that I haven't noticed for a while? Yeah, I'm starting to notice them, because like you were saying, Julie, the function of the muscular system starts to diminish if you are underutilizing and underusing your muscles by not doing specific resistance training.
Charlie, you make such a good point with the using versus building up your body. And, that is what we try to target. Resistance training is when you're resistance training, you're building your body. So the other thing, because we've been trying to check in with our clients every week, the other thing that we've noticed in terms of this muscle function is that people will say stuff like, well, I haven't been resistance training, obviously, because they usually will just resistance train with us at MAS, but I've been really active around the house. So it's not like I'm going for runs or long walks or whatever, like the normal cardio type thing. But, I've been doing a lot of stuff around my house because we're stuck at home. And so I can totally relate to this one, because I've been redoing our deck outside. I'm like, hey, well, coronavirus is keeping us home for quite a while. This is a really unique time for me to power wash sand, restain our deck, sweep the deck, all the stuff. And so I'm doing a lot of like repetitive motion on hands and knees, bent over. And by the time I'm done working on the deck for the day, my body is very tired. It is very used. Okay, so I did a lot of motion, a lot of work with my body, but it definitely isn't a buildup of my body. And I can definitely tell, because after I work on my deck or whatever I'm doing around the house, my body feels worked and worse, meaning my back, that's pretty sensitive, feels pretty flared up. Or I also have a history of fasciitis. Whenever my back flares up, then my fasciitis shows up. So then I notice my feet are a bit more tender, more tight. And so not only thinking, yeah, I'm just going to use my exercise as cardio, you might start thinking, oh, I can't go to the gym, but I can do things around my house, stay active, quote unquote, active around my house. Remember that activity of using your body isn't the same at all in terms of thinking about activity that builds your body. So again, one of the negative side effects of losing your habit of resistance training and regular exercise is that you're going to notice, and we've seen this firsthand, that a lot of your muscle function will go down. You'll decrease muscle function, which then usually results in some symptoms that you have in your body. That's actually one of the biggest ways that we know that someone's muscle system isn't working well. If you have symptoms going on, like if you have chronic back pain or foot issues or knee issues or shoulder, neck, any of your joints, if you have chronic issues in that area, it's pretty guaranteed that the muscle function in that area could really use some TLC and some attention.
Yeah, no, for sure, Julie. I mean, you're absolutely right with that point. Now, for some of you listening, you may have gone from doing resistance training on a consistent basis to now missing out on the resistance training piece, and you're starting to notice that with your body. Others of you may have gone from being moderately active to just not active at all. And so you've completely lost the habit of exercise. And here's the thing with that. Oftentimes when people think about, oh, I'm going to take an extended period of time off of exercising, the first thing that usually comes to people's minds is, oh, I'm going to put on some weight. I'm going to gain some weight. And don't get me wrong, weight gain can come as a result of that. But there are things that happen so much sooner than what it takes to gain weight by not exercising at all and by losing your regular physical activity, okay? Animal studies have shown that in 1 day of inactivity increases insulin resistance. And human studies have shown changes in LDL to HDL ratio as well as cardiac function with 3 days of bed rest, okay? And so this is something that happens in a matter of days. It's not like, oh, I took, 4 weeks off and I put on 4 to 5 pounds. Or, I took a couple months off and now I'm 15 pounds heavier. This is happening in a matter of days within our bodies where, from a physiological perspective, our bodies are trending more towards a diseased state. And Julie said, hey, one of the best things about exercise is it can improve how your muscles are functioning. I would say the other best thing about exercise is it can keep your body healthy overall. And by warding off these kind of easily preventable illnesses that come from inactivity, all right? And so by losing the habit of exercise, it's not just about, okay, yeah, you know what, I put on some extra pounds, or I got more deconditioned, I lost some strength. You have also now set your body in motion of trending towards a disease state, whether it's type 2 diabetes, whether it's heart disease, whether it's various forms of dementia, okay? All these different things start to happen as you start to get these metabolic changes from being inactive. And this doesn't happen over the course of a week. This doesn't happen over the course of a month. This is happening within days of inactivity. So when we're talking about, hey, you need to be exercising now, even if your gym's closed, even if you can't get to your group fitness class, even if you can't see your personal trainer, even if the running trails are, not as available as they once were, you still have to find a way to be physically active. You have to find a way to get your exercise in, because it kind of is twofold here. Like Julie was saying, one, your muscles aren't going to function as well, which means your body's going to feel worse. And on top of that, your body's going to start to trend towards a more ill state. But the challenge with that is even as your body is trending worse from a health perspective, if your body's not feeling well, you're going to be less likely to want to work out. And so it's this vicious cycle of, okay, I stopped doing my resistance training, so I'm starting to get these aches and pains, so I'm not working out, which means my body is trending more towards this disease state, which means so I'm getting chronically unhealthier and I'm still not exercising because my body's just feeling worse and worse. So it is truly of the utmost importance to whatever it is that you need to do to keep exercising, you get back into that habit of exercise as soon as possible.
Charlie, amazing points you just made. And I do want to repeat that part of getting back into exercise as soon as possible. Exercise is something we always like to label as like, oh, we started at the beginning of the week or next week or whatever. But it truly is so important that you get moving, because I don't know of a better time than now to work on keeping your body away from a diseased state. Something that I always look forward to every week is Charlie and I talk to his parents every weekend, and his father is a physician. So we're always talking things health. We're talking about exercise. He's talking about what he sees in his practice. And hearing in the news about coronavirus and people being affected by coronavirus. And of course, general statements never apply to one individual. But it's amazing how often we label people as healthy when they're overweight or doing habits that will lead to type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance or heart disease. It is now that your actions matter. Every minute is when your actions matter. It doesn't matter if you've been labeled as you're in a diseased state, as, oh, you have coronary heart disease, or, oh, you have type 2 diabetes, or whatever. It's all about the actions. So getting back into the habit of exercise, yes, doesn't only just affect muscle function, which is something Charlie and I deal with all the time, but also affects your ability to resist becoming into a diseased state. And that is something we want to see. We want to see that your body is resilient and is prepared to stay healthy. So get into that habit of exercise. So let's talk about some ways that will help you get into the habit of exercise. The first tip we have, which is always, you're like, all right, Julie and Charlie, y'all are like what is it called? Like a skipping disc?
Broken record.
A broken record. That's how good I am at those like little sayings. Anyways, we're broken record. You have to schedule it. If you're listening to this, think about this. Before coronavirus pandemic, you probably, this is a lot of our client schedule. Wake up, have breakfast, get your kid to school, go to work, and then when work is done at 5, then you go to your workout and then go home, right? And the reason you got in the workout was because it was scheduled, and there was like a time slot in the day for it. Like, okay, there's a pocket of my day that's for the workouts. It comes between work and home. And by the way, I just worked for 8 hours, so I'm not saying you weren't busy, because you were busy, but it was scheduled. Now, when you're home, maybe you're working from home 8 hours, maybe you're part-time, maybe you're not working at all from home. But I find that the less busy I am, the less likely it is I'm going to work out, because it's not scheduled. One quote that I've heard one time, and this won't be word for word, but the idea of this quote was like, if you need something done by a friend, always ask your busiest friend, not your least busy friend, because your busy friend will schedule it because they have a schedule. And your least busy friend probably won't schedule it, so it'll take forever to get done. So anyways, schedule your exercise, and that is how it will get done. And find a way to make sure that schedule is going to work for you.
Yeah, you are completely right, Julie. I mean, just think about, the Facebook Live workouts that we've been doing since a few days before we went into lockdown, okay? At the time that we're recording this right now, we've done 48 days in a row of those Facebook Live workouts. We've had people join us 48 days in a row, and they have a schedule with it, and they join us live, which means, weekdays, 11 a.m. Central Time, weekends, 10:30 a.m. Central Time, they're doing it, and it's become part of their schedule. We've had other people say, hey, you know what? I have conflicts during the time that it's live, so I am scheduling it for 3:30 p.m. or whenever I'm going to catch the replay and I'll get it done. And the people that we hear about that schedule it, they're the ones that are constantly coming back to us saying, oh, you know what, I love this workout. Oh, they're commenting on our thing, so we know that they're doing it. The ones that are saying, oh yeah, I get it in when I can, we rarely ever hear from them as far as like them being consistent with doing our Facebook Live workouts. Now, there are a lot of other ways to work out aside from our Facebook Live workouts, but that's just one example of, a simple thing of like, okay, all of our schedules, or a lot of our schedules, have just gotten completely blown open. All right. And yet those who have maintained some kind of schedule and say, all right, every day, 11 a.m., every day, 3:30 p.m., whenever it is for you, this is when I'm doing this workout. Those are the ones that we've seen consistently be working out with us. Again, some of them have done it 48 days in a row with us. That's awesome. That's amazing. Tomorrow will be day 49. That's 7 weeks in a row of working out without missing a day. That's incredible. And it's a large part because they know every single day, and this is something that you and I talked about early on when we first started doing these Facebook Lives, like we got to pick a time and we just got to be consistent with that time so people know. And then once they get that into their schedule, now all of a sudden everything else can kind of fall around it. Yeah.
Make a good point, Charlie, with we got to pick a time, because I remember when we first started, we we're like, what about 10 a.m.? What about noon? Oh, 3 would be good. Oh, 5 o'clock because everyone's done with work. And I remember you saying like, all right, let's work on decisiveness and let's just pick a time. And ever since we've just picked a time, it's really worked out because now it's just in the schedule. It's just where it goes. And so that makes another good point. If you don't trust yourself to get it scheduled yourself, let someone else schedule it. Yeah. Meaning we kind of know our regulars for Facebook. So we call everyone out like, hey, Linda, are you here? You should be here right now. Hey, Lauren, where are you? I know you're supposed to be here. And so that accountability with the scheduling is really great, which takes us to our next point, which is accountability. Figure out who you can be accountable to and what's going to work with that. So there are a couple options: trainer, a friend, a group like our Facebook group or a Facebook workout group, things like that. Online groups are even great. So find a way to be accountable. Now, a lot of times I hear, I'm in a couple like workout groups on Facebook, and a lot of women on there, and I'm not saying men don't apply to this, it's just a women's group. So I only hear from women on there. But a lot of people have said that like, hey, I've found that the only thing that works for me is when I'm working with a trainer or I have a friend to work out with. Has anyone ever dealt with this problem? And I had to respond to that person and say, hey, well, it seems like you've figured out what works for you. That's not a problem if you've figured out the solution. Having an accountability problem isn't highlighting a weakness. It's not a problem for you. You just know like, hey, for me to work out, I need to have accountability. I need someone working out with me. I need someone guiding me through, or I need someone to check in with me after the fact. Another cool idea with accountability is one of my friends and I, last year, we made a little accountability Google sheet and we put different goals on there. And every day we would check off if we achieved that goal or didn't. We did small goals like, take a walk after lunch or make sure weight training 3 times a week. So of course I wouldn't achieve that goal every day, but in the week we would achieve it. So that could be a great way. So think about, do you need accountability? And if so, where are you going to find that accountability?
And you highlight one of the things that now more than ever makes accountability super easy is the virtual aspect of it, right? Like you can join Facebook groups. You can do, use a workout app where people are working out together in a group and okay, every day at this time, we're going to be working out together. You can join our Facebook Live workouts. I've had clients where, all right, every day at this time, I send them a text and say, hey, how'd your workout go today? And they know that they're going to be getting that text. And they're going to be, accountable to respond to that. Hey, I got it in. Hey, I haven't gotten it in yet, but I'm planning on it. You know what? Today, it just didn't work for me. Whatever it was they knew that somebody was going to be asking about it, and they weren't going to be able to kind of hide it in that regard. And so that really actually goes a really long way, is just saying to somebody else, hey, you know what? I did this, or hey, you know what? Did you do this? I just want to check in on you. And so finding somebody that you can start that conversation with and who can, help you out in that regard is a really, really big thing. It doesn't have to be a trained exercise professional. It can be your significant other. It can be your sibling. It can be your parent. It can be your friend. And just say, hey, every day at this time, can you just send me a text and say, hey, how'd your workout go today? And then that every day you're going to have that coming in and you're going to have to respond to it.
So I have a question for Charlie, and he doesn't know this is coming, and I actually legitimately don't know the answer. So we're all finding out together. Charlie, do you feel like you need someone else to be accountable for your exercise? And I'm asking this because you are really amazing at like self-creating your own programs and workouts, and you do them, which that I'm like, I rely a lot on like other people to help be accountable. Like I need the accountability. Like you are my accountability. The scheduled workouts, my accountability. Yeah. So I don't sense that you get that. Right. But I'm curious. Is yours kind of internal, or do you find that you rely on some external stuff or other people?
Okay, so there's external things that I rely on, but but they're not always acknowledged. Okay. Meaning like knowing that I need to be able to have my body feel and function well in order to be able to work at my highest level, in order to be able to have our business run smoothly, in order to be able, to pay our mortgage and everything like that. Okay. So those are all like external things for me to be accountable for. And so it's like, dude, you gotta get up, you gotta work out. Okay. There's a kind of a long-term accountability that I have, being like, hey, you know what, being type 1 diabetic, if I want to keep my feet, like I got to get moving. It's really that simple. Okay. So those are different accountability things I have. But at the end of the day, like when let's say it's an early morning workout or whatever, and my alarm's going off, and I'm negotiating with myself as far as whether or not to hit snooze or whatnot, that then is a internal conversation that I'm having with myself, saying, dude, you got to get up out of bed. And so it's accountability to myself right now. It's accountability to my future self, and it's accountability to you, to our family, and to our clients and to our business, to be able to put my best self forward. So it's not something where I need somebody checking in on me, but so that part I don't need, but I do. There is an external accountability that I internalize, and so I just don't outwardly acknowledge it.
You brought up some good points in that, and thank you for sharing, because I didn't know that. So think about some stuff. Maybe this is how you get motivated, like kind of how Charlie does, where it's like, think about your life and what things in your life do you need a healthy body for? I think Charlie and I take it to a next level where we feel like, we're, as you guys probably know, we're very passionate about what we do. And for us to be able to serve our clients to the level that we'd like, we need healthy bodies. We need, not only we are trainers, we do want to be walking the walk, but it's also something that we take very personally. If you probably would never see us this way, but I think we've both been in a place where we couldn't physically do the things we want to do, and that is very mentally draining on both Charlie and I. I know I've talked about that a little bit during pregnancy and postpartum and stuff like that. So thinking about that, but you could also think about it in terms of, yes, serving your family or serving your bigger goals. Like, what do you need to keep your body healthy for? And it's probably not for today. It's probably not, because if you're here today, you're probably okay. But it could be something like putting a little message on Charlie does this, putting a little message on your screen of your phone. So every time you open up your phone, you see something, whether it's motivational, whether it's your goals, whether it's, I don't know. I know a lot of people get motivated when there's a health scare in the family, like someone having, an issue, and you want to remember that so that you stay motivated. So whatever you need to do, whether it's external, like other humans, like socially, or it's something internal that's personal to you, figure out a way that you can remind yourself, oh yeah, I need to work out. Might not be someone, again, knocking on your door or texting you saying like, hey, did you get the workout in? But it could be, oh, I opened up my phone. It's like, oh yeah, shoot, I gotta show up for myself today.
Now, the final point that we want to bring up today is, okay, yes, you need to schedule your workouts. Yes, find somebody to be accountable to, or whether that's yourself, your community, your family, whoever it is that you serve. Find somebody to be accountable to kind of keep you on point and on task with your workouts. And then finally, from an activity perspective, figure out what works for you, not just in the short term, but what's going to work for you in the long term. Okay. And one thing, I wrote a blog post a number of years ago, and it was called Organic Exercise. All right. And organic food was really starting to become a super trendy topic at the time. I thought, you know what? There's a really nice analogy with organic exercise. Okay. With the idea of organic and exercise, because a lot of times we say, okay, well, we have foods that we like to eat that make us feel good, but maybe they're not serving us in the best way long term. Okay. They may satisfy a need right now, but for the long term, they may not be serving us. But, if we're eating these really, super organic foods, and they are, as opposed to like as a mildly organic food, but these super healthy organic foods, they may not be the thing that we want to be eating right now, but we know in the long term they're begin serving us well. And I kind of applied that idea to exercise, where so often we get caught up in what I was calling like the fast food of exercise, where it's something that's flashy, it's something that looks good, it's something that's fun, it's something that grabs our attention right now and satisfies whatever need that we have right now from an exercise perspective. But in the long term, it's really not serving us that well, which is why it has a shelf life of 5 years, and then our shoulder can't take it anymore, or our knees can't take it anymore, or whatever it is. Okay. And so this idea of organic exercise came about, where it's like, all right, well, doing exercises that kind of, and then morphed into this build or rebuild your body, just like organic food will help to kind of build and rebuild your body. And so the idea being that the more the organic exercise that you do, the more of the building and rebuilding your body, the more of the fast food exercise you can start to tolerate, because you give your body a greater margin for health. You give your body a greater margin from a function perspective. And so, yes, finding what you like to do now, but also finding what you need to do for the long term so you can keep doing the stuff that you like to do.
I love that analogy, because I think about myself, as you guys probably know. I don't know, actually, if you know, this just got awkward. But anyways, I have a really big sweet tooth. I love ice cream. I love chocolate. I love cookies. But if I ate those things all the time, I wouldn't be able to function very well, because I would feel like poop. I'd probably have like a lot of extra adipose tissue, which would be leading me down a road of not preventing disease state. And so what I have to do is balance that, meaning most of the day I eat healthy, and then sometimes I have some sweets, okay? And that's how it goes with exercise. A lot of times when we think about exercise, we think only the stuff I like to do is what I'm going to do. I like bike riding, I'm only going to bike ride. I like running, I'm only going to run. I like dancing, I'm only going to dance. I like weight training, I'm only going to weight train. But what the thing is that we have to think about the long term. We have to think about, do the stuff you like, because it's fun. I'm going to eat chocolate because I like it. It makes me feel good. I get all those crazy hormone releases or whatever, neurotransmitter releases that make me happy and feel good. It's something I can look forward to. But I can't do that all the time, because that would just be really unhealthy. Again, the same thing goes with exercise. So I love, for example, I like to ride my bike. I like my cycle bike, and I love to dance. But if I did those two things only all the time, my body would feel pretty cruddy. I've actually done it, where I only cycled and only danced, because I was like, I don't have time for resistance training. And my chronic issues returned. I had low back pain again. My fasciitis came back, blah, blah, blah. So we have to think about, I like to kind of think about it in terms of a week, because that's like a nice time stamp. During my week, I need to include exercise that I enjoy, because it's fun, it's cool, I like it. And I also need to include exercise that are like my foundational exercises, my organic exercise, my exercise that builds up my body, which normally is resistance training focused on contracting muscle tissue. Now, if you're a bare minimum person, you're like, yeah, there's no movement that I like. That's totally cool. We know people like that. So just do the stuff that builds your body. You don't have to do the cycling or the dancing, because that's my extra. That's my fun stuff. That's my non-organic. That's my stuff that I could do all the time and I would start feeling like crud. That's my chocolate, right? But my salads, my veggies, my, fresh meats and stuff like that, that is the stuff that we have to keep balanced. So maybe you're listening to this, you're like, well, I already love resistance training. You said that's the good stuff. Well, you also have to think about, how can you continue to resistance training? So we're talking about balance here, right? So we're thinking about, okay, if I do resistance training, I can also do cardio. I could also, make sure I get my MAT session in, my recovery work in. I can tell you right now, like if Charlie's like sweet treat of exercise was running, he would need MAT like all the freaking time, because that just breaks his body down. Mm-hmm. Just so you guys know, he's on another running thing. Like, you guys listen to us. If you have been following us, he did this marathon thing for his birthday last year. Half marathon thing. So he's
Let's be realistic.
He's created some other running goal, and I'm like, oh boy, your MAT specialist is going to be like freaking put to work.
That's Julie.
Me. He already came back from the run like today. Like, man, my calf was hurting. Wink, wink.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, well, stop running. So anyways, consider what you're doing in your week. Consider how can you make it long term. If you're doing something that beats up your body, like for Charlie running, well, he's going to have to schedule more MAT sessions to balance that out. If you're doing a whole bunch of nothing and you don't want to really do anything that's fun movement, or you don't find movement to be fun, or you hate sweating or whatever, then just do the stuff that builds your body. But no matter what, you have to do the stuff that builds your body. And you have to do stuff that will allow you to keep doing this in 30 years. That was so perfectly timed.
Yeah, no, that was great because that was very well timed. And I'm sitting here thinking, I've never once thought of running as like my sweet tooth exercise. Like I would never put that as but you're absolutely right, because it's a thing that is in a lot of ways probably not the best for me, but I'm still doing, and I do it not because I enjoy it, but I like the fact. It's gonna sound weird. I like the fact that I don't enjoy it. Mm-hmm. So I keep doing it. Mm-hmm.
I get it.
And so that's part of the appeal for me is like, okay, I really don't like this thing. Let's see how much I can kind of torture myself and do it anyways. But you're right. But that's the thing that continually breaks down my body. And as such, it's like, okay, yeah, you can do that, but you need to do it in moderation, and it needs to be heavily supplemented with, recovery work, with MAT, with, predominant focus still on resistance training, so you can build back up your body, and so that you can keep doing this thing that you don't like doing.
Well, you make a good point. It's like the thing that you're doing that's breaking down your body, that you're doing in excess, mm-hmm. right? It doesn't necessarily have to be something you enjoy, mm-hmm. But it's still giving you that result of breaking down. Like you everyone here probably knows someone that exercises a bunch but doesn't like it. Mm-hmm. But there are things called exercise addictions, mm-hmm. where, there are a lot of chemical releases that happen in your brain, reasons why people exercise a whole bunch. It can be someone is too habitual with their exercise, and so it's not just like, I do this because I love it and I'm always going to do this one, but it could be I'm doing this too much, or something that is breaking me down. So you bring up a good point with that.
Okay, so if you're listening to this conversation and you're like, all right, you know what, I did fall out of the habit of exercising on a regular basis. All right, first and foremost, you need to be scheduling your exercise. It doesn't matter how busy your schedule is or how non-busy your schedule is. You need to be scheduling your exercise. That's how you're going to get it done. That's what we see day in and day out. When it gets scheduled, it gets done. When you're going to do it when you think about it, or when you're going to do it when you feel like it, or when you're going to do it when you have the time, it doesn't get done, at least not with any kind of consistency that exercise needs in order to really have the beautiful health boosting effects that exercise can provide. All right, so schedule it. If you're having difficulty still sticking with your workouts, you gotta find somebody or something to hold you accountable. All right, it can be an external thing like a friend, a trainer, a group. It can be an internal thing where your motivation to reach some goal, or your motivation to be able to do something for an extended period of time of your life, is met by exercising. All right. So whatever it is, it's an internal accountability, it's an external accountability. Find someone, something to help you stay accountable to your workouts. All right. And then finally, make sure that you find the things that work for your body. Yes, in the short term, that they're enjoyable. We don't want you to just hate your exercise, all right? But also long term, exercise that builds and rebuilds your body so you can keep coming back to exercise. Exercise is not something you should ever have to retire from because it's too stressful for your body. Exercise is something that should build your body, that should help rebuild your body, and that should amplify everything that you love to do in life, all right? And if you're finding that your exercise is not doing that for you, then you need to reevaluate how you're doing your exercise. So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that has fallen out of the habit of exercise? Whether it's just been over the last couple months or whether it's been over the last couple decades. share this episode with them so they can learn about some things that they can start doing now in order to regain the momentum of exercising on a regular basis. And while you're online, if you wouldn't mind, head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find this podcast when they're looking for information on health and when they're looking for information on exercise. You know, I did a search on iTunes a few weeks back. We are classified as an alternative health podcast. We're not in the top 100 right now. And we're not. I was a little bit bummed. And the reason is, and there are a lot of shows out there that have a lot fewer episodes. And there are a lot of shows out there that have not been around as long as ours. But we don't have as many ratings and reviews. And so if you feel like this information needs to get out there, leave us a rating and review. There's shows out there that have been out for like 2 months and they got like 30, 40, 50 ratings and reviews. That's what iTunes is using to say, all right, yeah, you know what, they're putting out quality content. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us that 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.